Hello, everyone, and welcome to Earp Sister Feels. This is our episode number 36. My name is Kevin, and on this video, we're going to be discussing Season 4, Episode 9 of Wynonna Earp, Crazy. And we've got the full house back for discussions on this particular video, so let's give a quick introduction to everybody. First off, we have Alyssa.
Hey.
Jill.
Hello.
Kylie.
Hello.
Rita. Terry Ann.
Hey.
And Jess.
Hi.
All right. So, well, maybe not a ton of Earp Sister scenes in the sense of the two of them together. We do have a lot developing. I know that certainly from our group chat over the course of the week. So, who wants to go first?
Looks like Rita.
Last time I started at the end of the episode, so somebody who wants to start near the beginning this time.
Bust that notebook out, girl. We know you've got one.
I mean, I don't know where to begin. I mean, my biggest notes that I have that I feel like are the most relevant to the Earp sisters are that Waverly sort of in Jeremy's questioning if he thinks that Doc is capable of the murder, and in his questioning if Wynonna is like off her hinges, Waverly sort of lacks response, or doesn't really confirm or deny either, which I don't know, kind of was a little disheartening. Or maybe she just knows that Wynonna isn't doing all right, but it's not her place to say, which I suppose would be respectful. I can't really decide how I feel about it, but I felt like that was very poignant to me.
Yeah.
Do you have the quote written down for what Jeremy actually asks Waverly about Wynonna there? Because the one time and a half that I watched this, that I can't remember it because I didn't write it down, but that the question
I think Waverly
specific?
said that Doc thinks that she's off the chain for killing Holt. And then Jeremy says, well, is she? I think.
Yeah. And Waverly sort of like shrugs, and then they pan away from her face. So you don't really get like a time to answer. But she sort of does the same shrug when Jeremy's like, do you think Doc was capable of doing this? But
what I'm wondering, let's see if my internet stays chill. What I'm wondering is when he says, is she off the chain? Like this whole episode is so much about like masters and control, and like Wynonna's like kind of like a little bit of like, you can't really tell if Peacemaker is making the call or if it's her, or like where the balance of power and control is. I just thought that phrasing of that question with Waverly's non-response was very telling.
Yeah, because Wynonna was really dead against the term master, lord, keeper, all of those terms. You're like, no.
I think I also found it interesting that they all sort of presumed the worst of each other, or that the worst of each other was possible. Wynonna's first instinct was, haha, Doc is now as bad as I am. He went off the rails and killed this dude. And then, Jeremy was like, do you think Doc could do that? Like, he wasn't also going, there's no way Doc did this. He was just like, do you think it could happen? Do you think Wynonna could do this? Like, they were all kind of going like, yeah, we're all capable of just taking somebody out, apparently. They all kind of thought that of each other, which was also just like, as somebody said before, it's like there are a lot of warning signs. Like,
yeah. And I think, Wynonna thinking Doc did it was also some selfish reasons.
True.
Very selfish.
yeah.
But I mean, but her phrasing of saying, somebody like, he who never shoots anybody in the back still bites people in the neck, and he's as bad as I am, or something like that. Like,
and so
she wanted to bring him, but which means that she feels terrible about herself, like
Mhm.
as something like as bad as I am, but also would just as soon Doc is down there with her.
Yeah, because I wrote that quote down, and right after she says the bites people in the neck, she goes, "I guess I'm not so bad anymore, and even if I am, so is he."
Right.
Mm.
Ugh.
It's
So there-
interesting, like this first half of this season felt very much like, let's get the band back together so we can all be together again, and like in a happy, like in a, we work so well together. And then the second half of this season, it's almost like everyone, like you're saying, like questioning each other a little, kind of got their own edge. And it's just interesting, like the whole point, like the whole, you think, or you would have thought, like, now that they're back together again after what they experienced of being separated, they would not keep things from each other. They would, like work well together. But then you still have every single one of them having their own, not game plan, but their own thing in mind, right? Where it's Jeremy with Robin, it's like, Doc's doing his thing with the demons now at the bar. Like, it's just like everybody seems to have something that's pulling them further apart from each other in some ways. Not just the Earp sisters, but we will talk about the Earp sisters, I'm sure, as per usual. But it is interesting. The first half is very much, let's all get back together. It's all about getting Waverly back and everything. And then now it's kind of like separation again.
Yeah.
I do have to admit, I liked, in terms of separation, one of the things that I love from the very beginning, and this isn't about the scene in the morgue, but it's the boxing scene, when Waverly finally came in and Nicole figured out that the Earp sisters had conspired together to get Nicole there. And I love that there have been certain times throughout the show where particularly Waverly will say something that she knows about Nicole, but we've never heard that conversation. And I love that they do this on the show, that we never saw them conspiring together, but we found out that that's what they had done. And I just, then you can picture in your mind the two of them talking about how important it was to get Nicole back into the sheriff's office. And, who broached that topic? Did Wynonna come to Waverly and said the town's going to hell and, I'm not going to take care of it. We need to get your girlfriend back on the horse. Or did Waverly go to Nicole? Or did Waverly go to Wynonna and say, I'm tired of her moping around the homestead. We got to get her back in to town. But then sort of imagining, clearly they had a conversation, and who started it, what was it like, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Is that also where they used to spar in season 2?
Seems
I
like
think it's
it.
the Black Badge office.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
That was
also, if
fun.
you look, it's the same set they used as the morgue, though, so they pushed the bodies out of the way to spar.
As one does.
Mhm.
As one does.
It's, I think, a little COVID, like, gotta reuse these sets as often as we can.
Mhm.
I mean, Wynonna has no problem putting a mug on
That
at
guy's
the
head.
morgue on someone's head. So
Right.
There's
Uh,
whiskey in it, right? It's fine. Sterile.
yeah.
Antiseptic, it's whiskey. It's,
and to go kind of what Jill was just saying about like the conversations we don't see, we kind of then saw that with like Waverly kind of taking over this police force and pulling Wynonna into it. Like, did Waverly tell somebody she was going to start kind of manning that office, or just take it upon herself and pulls Wynonna in?
to leave her little quacky duck at the front, you mean?
Yeah, she must have been thinking about that one for a while.
Right.
Where would this be great? Oh, yeah, we got to use it so we can have fun with the fans, So horse-sized ducks and duck-sized horses,
Yeah.
More fan nods.
Right. And like, so one of the things I wrote in my notes was there was quite a few comments about the town being fine or quiet in this
Mhm.
episode. Wynonna, like, she's like, because right now things are fine, or like when Waverly tells Wynonna that she hasn't gotten anything from BBD this week, and that the town's like nice and quiet. That like kind of stuck out to me as kind of foreshadowing it's not going to be quiet for very long.
The
Yeah.
calm before the storm.
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
And I do love, like, what they're complaining about when the town is quiet.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
you
The
know,
Guy Fieri.
flames,
Lettuce.
but that everything is out of moisturizer, all the stores. So it's like when Purgatory's quiet, it's got some really interesting complaints.
Mhm.
And I actually liked seeing more of the townspeople. It's so fun, like the eclectic group of people that live in this purgatory. But I do love the scenes though of the two of them, Waverly and Wynonna, in the sheriff's office, like trying to like, again, the polar opposites of the two of them in a customer service related gig is always humorous.
Yeah.
They're not good at it.
No.
No.
Highly
We
fireable.
try.
Yeah.
Extreme,
Wynonna's-
extreme ends. Yes.
Yes.
Waverly would give in to every request. Wynonna, none.
Yeah.
Well, again, though, that's again, you come back to Waverly. Just she's the one that's trying to exert some kind of control over. She's not trying to exert control over Purgatory, but she wants there to be law and order in Purgatory. She wants things to be calm, and she knows that somebody has to enforce the law. And right now it's not Nicole, so it's got to be Wynonna. And when you have Wynonna enforcing the law, like,
Law.
She wants everyone to be happy.
Yeah.
she does want everyone to be happy.
Mm.
Mhm.
I feel like maybe it was Kevin who brought it up last week. I really can't remember. But after that, I really started paying attention. And I feel like there's some real bad juju. And it's too early in our conversation to really deep dive.
Go there, Reed.
Go
Just
for
go
it,
there.
Rita.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Do it. Do it.
We're all
Someone
waiting
other
for
than
it.
me, go
Yeah,
there.
we're all
We
waiting
know
for
we're
it.
gonna go there eventually, so just let's do it.
I mean, I'm going to get back on Where's Eve? I'm going to get back on the Where's Eve train.
It never left the station.
No, I've been just circling on this train. But I just feel like there's something not quite right with like how insistently Waverly talks about the happiness of everyone. Like it's like incessant. It's like every episode there's like something, and she says to Nicole in this episode, we are so close to being happy, as if whatever it is isn't quite good enough, and she just wants everyone to be happy. And not that that's like there's anything wrong with that, not that being happy is inherently demonic, but I feel like if we look at Eve and where she's supposed to be, or where she came from in paradise, the inherent happiness has to be there somehow. I'm not saying directly that Waverly might be Eve, but I'm not saying she's not Eve. Maybe, perhaps. But it just seems a little out of character to be so pushy about other people's feelings for Waverly.
I mean, Eve might not be corporeal at this point.
Yeah.
We don't know.
No, and wait, who was it who commented on our video? Louisa.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She had some really good comments on our last video that really had me back on the Eve train. Was feeling unsupported on the Eve train, but Louisa came through.
Got your back.
I
Louisa
can't
got
go
my
down.
back.
I can't go down the Eve or Waverly as Eve train in terms of permanence. Like she's every time we've seen Waverly, it's Eve.
I
And
don't necessarily think that, because
right, so I
that's
cannot go
real
down that
50.
train.
I'm not there, but like the books and the choices and like the Clantons are out of nowhere. I don't quite believe this is the purgatory we left. I'm still not on that board. I'm not on board with that.
So that's a totally different theory.
I know, but I think
They're all gonna come. They're all gonna eventually.
It's all Eve.
Connect.
What about Eve? What about
Barely.
Yeah. As I said, I can't go down the path. What I can agree with is that not everything we have seen are in the same universe.
Mm.
Mm.
Like sometimes we're in the purgatory and with the characters we believe them to be, and sometimes we're not. I don't know how they would go back and then explain that, unless there's some kind of, if there's some way that they dress, or some way that some way that they act, or some specific phrase they say, that if you put it all together you would know, oh, clearly this is like Eve Waverly and this is normal Waverly.
Like some type of do-over type thing, like where they have to go back, or
like what it, or right, or if there's again, the main reason I won't go down the every time we've seen Waverly it's Eve, and one of the Emily has said this, is 402, that consent issue is too big a deal, to that was Waverly, full stop. So I believe that, but I do think that there could be times when the Waverly we see on screen isn't Waverly, it's Eve, and there's a second Waverly who is Waverly wandering around purgatory also.
And it could be something that where Eve has slowly been taking over. Instead of just like all at once, like it wasn't happening right when she got back, but the longer that Waverly is away from the garden or wherever they were, that Eve's power is like.
I would be fascinated to know if there was like an earring or a necklace or
The rings.
something that is from even like, it could be any character. When that character is wearing, no matter what character it is, whoever's wearing that ring, that signifies they're actually Eve. But we just haven't caught it.
Guess who's gonna rewatch?
Like the sea over the door for the Clantons that we didn't catch until.
Right. That going back, we would be able to tell, like, oh, in that case, Jeremy was actually Eve there, and Waverly was actually Eve there.
I mean, to be fair, they did do one whole episode in season 2 where it was a whole other reality, so they could, in some ways, maybe explain it in one episode. But yeah, I don't know.
Wynonna's jacket in 402.
Hmm?
Or sorry, 40.
Voter jacket?
Sorry. What season are we in? What half? 40. We start with 7. So was it 408? Where she walks in with a pink fuzzy jacket instead of her normal jacket. I was like, what's happening? I like that. I have questions about where that came from.
And then
it's very
she's
biker gang looking with a patch on the back. Banditos. I'm pulling for banditos in this season.
Yeah, we have to know what she did.
And then Earp Sisters just waltzing up on porches and knocking on doors.
Okay, that I was just gonna say is my favorite moment of this episode, of the knock on the door and be like, "Who's there?" Or and then like, "Earp Sisters." I was like, solid.
Obviously.
And
what
that
other law
shows,
enforcement do you need?
I was gonna say that shows to one of Rita's favorite words, growth. Something I put in my notes, like going from season 1, Wynonna, like not wanting Waverly anywhere near like the research or the going out into the field, and to now they're like out in the field together, side by side, like working together. I like that.
And again, their dynamic is just so fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, for Wynonna, the idea of trying to protect her, obviously, as she's seen her grow and seen some of her abilities to do some of these things. I mean, because you go back to the season 1 stuff, or even the undercover work for Lucado. She got her hand chopped off. The time in the field hasn't always been good for the two of them. So, but I think the reality of seeing that it's probably better for her to at least be at arm's length away than thinking she's safe at home when she's not, because things could be even worse there. It's that reality when you're going to try to protect someone. You want to keep them away from, quote, the front lines, but sometimes that means they're nowhere near you. So, but that's got to be the balance too.
Yeah.
And I loved how they both, when somebody came in with a complaint about an abused girlfriend or an abused spouse or whoever it was, they were like, well, that's way more important than this whole brain eating thing. Let's go do that.
I did write that quote down because I thought it was very pertinent of Wynonna, who everyone has tagged as off the rails and bad news again, and all of this stuff. She says abusive relationship trumps brain die. Like, done, period. I don't care who else is in line. Like, we need to go take care of that. And because there was also a lot of back and forth about like the like her intelligence and all of that, which
Right.
was very plot related for the episode. But I felt like that line specifically was not redeeming, because I'm like 1000% team Wynonna. I don't care if she shot her in the back, shot Holt in the back, but like it was very much like a don't forget who your hero is on this show kind of moment, where it's something that you don't even think of. It was second nature. It wasn't even, first nature, second nature. I can't remember how that works. But
So do you think that whole scene when she was the one figuring out that Doug had to be touching Jeannie to make it all work brought back a little bit of the I'm so smart right now vibe?
Isn't
She had like
What's
the
your
same
favorite-
mannerisms as like those scenes, like both those scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, just reinforcing that given the opportunity, we may not think of her as the smartest one. That's where it was kind of fun watching the Jeremy Waverly sparring. But reminding us, like you said, that no, she may not be the smartest, but she is street smart. As
Yeah,
Doug.
there's that difference between book smart and street smart, and
Mhm.
like instinct too. I think like Wynonna
Mhm.
always has the not always the best, but like in moments like that, like she has the instinct that maybe isn't the book smart sort of answer to it, but she just feels it. You know what I mean? And it reminds you, like, oh right, she is really good at what she does. Even though she has to, and that's how she feels about it. It's comes natural to her in ways that maybe doesn't come natural to other characters who, like, look at Jeremy, he had to study for that. Like they both were studying for their, like, the trivia night, but stuff like this comes more natural to Wynonna than anybody else. And I think it only reinforces for me like that idea of like, yes, she is the hero, she is the one that like takes this all on and has to do it. And I don't want to jump again ahead, but like even that last scene with her and the genie, like the fact that she caught on and she knew, like it's instinctual for her.
We saw that at the murder board too.
I was gonna say that, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, like, just how she was kind of doing it on the fly, like thinking about it, and like she connected all those dots. Yes, in a messy way with getting all caught in the string, but she got there in Wynonna's way.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, while Jeremy and Waverly sparred back and forth on motives and reasons and whatnot, she came up and said, I think he's a murderer.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be more complicated than that sometimes. He's a murderer.
Right. And the line, like, as a smart also, like, yeah.
It's like Tim also good.
To see her
Wynonna also
be seen,
smart.
not just the gun.
What, Rita?
After so many, it was good to see her be seen as not just the gun, which for so many episodes, that's like kind of what has been focused on. Because of course, then there's like the subplot with the genie and all of that, where it's like the master and all of that stuff. But it was nice to see her characterized as more than a weapon.
Yeah, because I mean, at least in this episode, like she was the one that like figured all these different pieces out. Like everybody else was so consumed on being the smartest brain, but she was the one that actually like figured out what Kuru's doing and what the genie was doing. And
I think that's what like we as an audience are seeing, but I think we're also getting a look at what Wynonna's figuring out, right? She's figuring out that same thing, is that like she's always been like, I'm nothing without Peacemaker. Peacemaker's, you know what I mean? But now it's like she's coming into that realization herself of like, again, the whole master, not master thing, but like, I also am the one making these decisions. I am also the one like figuring things out. It's not just the gun. Like I am part of this thing myself as well.
But does she actually think that, even if she's
Yes.
saying
I know,
it?
it's a bit of
Terry,
both.
I see Terry over there with like
know.
her thinking brain going.
I
I've seen
literally-
this. I've seen this look on Terry.
It is a bit of both.
I literally was just about to say, Does she though? Because I feel like throughout throughout most of the episode, yeah, she's kind, she had this agency, and she's like, oh yeah, I too am smart. I can figure these things out. But then in the end, um, I thought it was very telling how she kind of switches from when she was saying the difference is, and then she starts to say something, but then changes it. And again, we'll never really know what exactly she was going to say. But the way I interpreted it or read into it was going to be something that was a little bit more active. Something like the difference is like, I can make a choice, or I am the master, something like that. But then she switches it to, you have a way out. So even just the phrasing of that, it goes from, I have some kind of control, to realizing, do I really? I don't know. Maybe I don't. You have a way out of this and I do not. I'm trapped. And so it's just like, oh man.
It's like a constant battle for her. Like it's a constant
Yeah.
like 1 minute she feels like it, and then the next minute something like that happens and it's like, oh wait, do I? Like, yeah, what you're saying. Yeah.
So it was also interesting that for the most part in the episode, everyone was limited in what they could actually do because of the spell. They were active participants still in the trivia. So because she had been eliminated, she was a little more independent to be able to think on some of these things. So to a certain degree, I thought in this episode, she was doing the work of several of the other characters who normally are doing stuff.
Right.
So she did get to be a little more, of the smart one, figuring some of these things out, looking for the solution, and also dealing with Jeannie and figuring out truly what's going on there. So, I mean, I thought, much like you were saying, the idea of her feeling like she was more in control and taking over and doing things. And then when it came to the end, though, she realized how much, as Jeannie pointed out, that she's a slave to the gun again. So just when she thought maybe I do have more control, here's a big fat reminder that maybe you don't.
Yeah,
So-
I'm still torn. I don't know if certainly all the Revenants know how to push Wynonna's buttons, and will say things. Now, Bobo was the best, the most psychologically manipulative. Anything that came out of his mouth, you couldn't tell if it was true or if he was just trying to get under the skin of the Earp sisters. Jeannie, I feel, is also pretty manipulative. Clearly, she's very manipulative. So for her saying you're a slave to your gun, she probably figured that out about Wynonna, that Wynonna may feel about that same way, and will put even more doubt in Wynonna's mind about it, even if it's not true, but it will make Wynonna think more about it.
How much do any of us project, though, what we're feeling about ourselves onto other people's problems? Like, I'm trying to work through my own shit. Let me help you. Work through, but you can't process it in any other way but your own. So finding that balance of... Can you hear the people in the background of my house? Sorry. They're watching Hamilton, I guess. Again. But yeah, just the whole decision of, again, can you separate yourself and your experience from hearing about someone else's? And even within this group, like, we all hear these episodes and these conversations through our own experiences, which I'm pretty sure from these conversations in the past are wildly different. Some similarities, but overall there's not a lot of overlap with our lives, I don't think, and stuff that's happened in them. So, I don't know. The end of that episode, I was just like, oh, Wynonna's just looking in another mirror. This whole episode was like a callback to The Blade for me on some levels.
There was one thing that, so during like the whole mention of Aladdin and all of that stuff, where a couple times Jeremy was like, have you not ever seen Aladdin? And then he says, like, could you just pretend to have seen Aladdin to Wynonna? But then at the very end of the episode, she has, because she says, Jeannie, you're free. which is like the whole of Aladdin. And you like it, which is like a really like small part of all of that emotional stuff. For whatever reason, this is making me emotional. Don't know why. We'll check that later. But I feel like just to have withheld like such a tiny amount of knowledge and to be like underestimated on just like this minuscule, like unimportant thing, and you sort of like see not like the lack of support in her life, but you see how easy it is for her to believe those things about herself when even like her team, you know, doesn't really see any of it. And you see like even just in that one small line that she's more than she lets on ever.
It makes me think about roles.
That line about Aladdin, but let me tell you, it hit me real hard.
It's funny. I didn't find it hit me hard until you just explained it. And now I'm like, oh my God. Because I didn't I missed that completely. Like I know Aladdin, I've watched Aladdin. And like, but I just like I didn't make that connection until you kind of said it. And I was like, wow. Because she does, like, that's the one thing about Wynonna that like I relate to the most, and why I love the character is that like she is always sort of like not pushed aside, but like you said, like just like everyone's like, well, it's Wynonna. Like we always say that. Everyone's like, it's Wynonna that she's gonna do that. It's like, but like maybe she's not always wanting to be like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like in I think this episode, you see her climb her way towards not a different image, but like I don't know about you guys, but when people start to say something about you and your personality and they say it over and over and over again, you believe it. Whether or not it's true, or whether or not like you deep down in your soul know that that's not who you are, but you can put that, you know, you can always be the jokester or whatever. Like we said with Waverly, she's always happy, the happy one, but like deep down, if that's what people are projecting about you, that's what you're gonna think about yourself, right? And so with Wynonna, it's always like gets me when I think about like that, and like how she's kind of been told this is who you are, and we talk about it all the time, but like every time I'm like, oh my God, this is what she believes she is, and she can't see past it in some ways. Like
And all the
poison line.
connections. All the connections. Even like what you're saying, just thinking about the roles that people play, and how in the beginning of the episode, you know, Wynonna kind of gets to step out of that role. So she's like, oh, as a smart also, so she kind of gets to be the smart one. And you know, where she's the one who's figuring things out. And you know how Rita, you were saying, she obviously did see the end of Aladdin, but kind of withheld that information. And how now I'm also connecting back to what Jeannie was saying, what the conversation that Wynonna and Jeannie had at the end, where, you know, she starts stepping out of this role, but then in the end, she's still the person who has to fire the gun. She still has to send the demons back to hell. So no matter how she tries and things may shift and change a little bit, she always ends up in the same role. So it's like, is there really an opportunity for her to change, to do something different? It's like, how much does she get to step out of that? And how much is she just trapped in this like cycle and having to do the same thing? So.
And how in her own head now, okay, take a breath, Kevin. For the longest time, it was kill the 77, kill the 77. And I and everybody else in my family will be free. There's no more curse. Why is she still so pushing to keep killing demons?
She's the hero. Waverly named her.
But does she have to be the only one doing it?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm wondering.
If she's the only one that can wield
over there.
Peacemaker, she's still the only one that can wield Peacemaker.
Well,
You know that?
Is
Yeah, because if the curse is gone.
Well, we don't know if she's the only one that could still wield Peacemaker, but we presume, and she probably presumes,
my
that
God.
maybe we'll find.
I
Do you
can't.
think that I feel like maybe, Jess, you mentioned this last week, but do you think that she feels like how Buffy felt in the musical episode? Like when she finally reveals that after she died, she went to heaven and they brought her back.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Wynonna feels like that a little bit? Like
Feels
having
like-
broken the curse and then Waverly's like,
See,
Oh, that's brutal.
yeah, and I think
Here
I
we go.
mentioned this in our 407 talk. Like, is she or will she ever be mad at Waverly for kind of renaming her, re-giving her this power or burden, however you want to see it, to kill these people? But like now in this conversation, is it really her burden alone?
Hmm.
One thing we haven't mentioned that I thought was the most powerful conversation between Wynonna and the genie was when Wynonna said, "You have to hear their screams,"
I was gonna bring that up.
and then you have to tell them to go F themselves.
You have to look the cost of it in the eye and tell it to go F itself.
And so it could be, Wynonna, and this actually I remembered back in season 1, I think it was Doc that warned her not to get used to killing and not to start liking it, because she started going down this path of torturing that one revenant by almost threatening to put a fish hook through his eye, I think. I mean, I was just like, ugh. And Doc was like, don't get a taste for this. Or I don't know if it was Doc or if it was Dolls. And so I also think, in terms of this burden that Wynonna thinks she does have, is she knows how much that sucks, and she doesn't want to give that to anybody else. She doesn't want to have anybody else have to do the job she does because it sucks so badly.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want it to touch Waverly, and she doesn't want it to touch Nicole, and she doesn't want it to touch
And
Jay.
in this episode, Doc says the gun does tend to go to their head. So that's that, like, kind of like you mentioning from season 1 what Doc or Doll said, and then now what Doc is saying is like, has it all gone to Wynonna's head?
Mhm.
Can't even talk about Doc.
Whoa.
And like,
Well, okay, but if we're talking about season 1 to now, I also wrote that note down. The gun does tend to go to their head in 409, and then in 113, because she decides that she's capable of killing Willa, he tells her that she's a hero. So
it's again, it's like killing the one versus the many. Like,
mhm.
Jill, I like literally had a moment as you were speaking, where I'm wondering now if when Wynonna says that, where you have to like look it in the eye, is this a moment where we're seeing Wynonna actually feel some kind of real remorse or something about shooting Holt in the back? Because for so long it's been like, this is just what I had to do. And, he was gonna eventually hurt my sister, hurt my family, hurt whoever. And now that's very like pointedly, like, look it in the eye. She didn't look Holt in the eye. She shot him in the back. And so it's just like, oh my God, is this a moment? I don't know. Maybe it's not, but I don't know. It just literally like blew my mind. Like,
That's a good point. Yeah, she didn't look Holt in the eye and realized how important it is. That's something you have to do.
mhm.
Dun, dun,
Have
dun.
this is random side tangent on that, but have we seen, I haven't rewatched the shooting holes in the back scene, but we've seen her pull a trigger, right? Like, she pulled the trigger. It wasn't like Peacemaker himself or herself fired. It was like Wynonna actually pulled the trigger. Okay. just
No,
checking.
you don't see it. You just see Holt get a bullet in the back, and then they turn, and Wynonna's holding the gun.
Just curious.
She seemed pretty confident she fired, though.
The
Yeah,
implication
yeah.
is pretty
Yeah.
clear, I think,
Okay.
with that one.
But do
I
we
was
see
just
it?
curious.
No. Did she do it?
Probably.
Yeah.
Also, Terry Ann, how dare you? I've been like so vehemently.
I'm thinking about it differently, because like the way that I took that line of, you have to look the cost of this in the eye and tell it to go F itself, is that she knows what she's done. And in order for kind of her to feel like better or, you know, remorse, or whatever, like she has to tell her own self like these things to make her better. And then, you know, also in my thinking, what happens when the cost of this is your daughter or your sister's life? Like, is she still gonna say F it? So
And you know, and for the Revenants, like if the curse wasn't broken, she was gonna have to kill Rosita. She had to kill Levi and Fish. She's had to make kills that she didn't want to make. And I think about, actually, I don't think this is what they was referencing, but it just reminded me of on The Good Place when not Karen, who's their robot, not a girl.
Janet.
Oh, yeah,
Janet. When you were going to reset Janet and she would scream and scream and scream and beg and plead, please don't reset me, even though she felt no emotion whatsoever. And so, you know, but you still have to face that as a, you know, Wynonna's a human. She could have demons. They're all terrified of her. They're all afraid of her because they don't want to die apparently, but
well, she pointed the gun at Doc.
But she's got to go, you know what? I can't care about your pain. I can't afford to care about your pain. I have to go through, but I have to absorb it. I have to face it and take it in and acknowledge that it's there, because otherwise she will go completely off the rails and just start killing people because she doesn't like it. But I do admit, Jess, the wording was strong enough that maybe she, you know, it's like, yeah, you look at it and then you go, F it.
But that's the line between hero and villain, isn't it? Like what you were saying about like she has to do it, but like taking it internal and not like going, you know, off and just start going crazy killing people. I think that's the line between hero and villain a lot that gets played like in shows and TV is like what's the justification between being named a hero and being named a villain.
mm-hmm.
But doing, you know, I think that obviously she's you know, a hero. I think Wynonna is obviously a hero, but I think there's always that fine line. And it's interesting when you start to think about what she is doing to, like you said, these people who maybe, you know, she wouldn't personally want to put, you know, I want to say put down, but you know what I mean. I don't know. It's just interesting. And that's what I love about the show is like the mind fuck.
Doc brought that too, also talking about, you know, Wynonna was accusing him like, you're in a demon bar, and he's like, yeah, but basically he didn't go all out. He's like, but these demons are decent people, like, you know,
and insinuating that
there's a lot of humans in purgatory,
right? Yeah, and insinuating that they're somehow morally higher than Wynonna and what she did, you know, killing Holt, and that they could never do that.
But you know, Doug, for instance, you could argue that Doug as a non-demon is actually a worse entity in the world than these demons.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want to go back to what we just brought up, Kylie and Jill talking about, even though it's not specific to Earp Sister, but I think it's specific to the Earp Sisters part of the story. Wynonna pulling Peacemaker on Doc. Was that a line she crossed? A big line?
What'd you say, Rita?
No.
We know how Rita feels.
Is that the first time she's pulled it on Doc?
I think so.
Really?
In any kind of a serious way, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think she was.
I thought it was pointed it at him like on one of the porch scenes, but maybe not. Maybe she got him to reveal he was.
She forces him to bare his teeth, but she doesn't pull the gun on him. She slaps him twice. But
for what he became. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that she pulled the gun at first too, though. When I was thinking about it, I was like, no, this isn't the first time, but it was.
It was.
Yeah, and I definitely think it was not a line crossing, but I think it's a big statement for what it means to like Doc, to have it pointed at Doc and what he would feel having it pointed at him. I think she was making a point, and I don't think it was crossing the line, but it's playing the line for sure.
Yeah, because she's saying, whose side are you on? Like, you sit in this demon bar all day and people are dying and like we have missions to do, and you're sitting here like, whose side are you on? Are you on this end of the gun, or are you on this end of the gun?
Ooh, nicely
But
worded.
to his credit, he's also been smart enough to be playing both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole time.
And if there's some big thing coming, who's to say, much like at the end of I think we talked about this last video, who's to say come the end of the season and you need all hands on deck, much like when Wynonna had to team up with Rivers.
Yeah.
Maybe Doc's just saying, okay, yeah, you don't like what I'm doing, but you may need me and a few of these folks at some point in the future.
And he even said in that, at the end of that scene, like something to the effect of like, I'll keep my ear to the ground if I hear anything about who killed this guy. And then he's still going to try to save Wynonna at the end of this episode once the
Yeah.
spell is gone.
Like, I think no matter what, he's always gonna he has a lot of his own, you know, since day one of the, you know, season one, he's always had a second motive.
Mhm.
You know, whether it be his immortality or whatever. But I do believe that, like, he will always come back around in a way somehow, whether it be, you know, the venom from the end of last season that he was, you know, sucking out, or you know, even coming at the end of this episode, like Jess said, to try and save the day. Like, I do think he inherently will always come back around to that side. I just think he tends to do he's got a second thing he's always kind of gotten the side, which I don't know if it's like a non-trust that they, you know, that they can handle it all on their own, and he's always got to have almost like a backup plan. But like, I do think that Doc will always come back around to help.
Was talking about, has Wynonna ever pulled it on him? Did she pull it on him when he had his ring that made him immortal or immortality? Did she pull it on him in that episode when he gives it the ring?
I thought she did.
No, but they did shoot when they shot the widows. You could argue she wasn't aiming the gun at Doc, but they did shoot directly at each other, and it split the bullet and hit the two widows. But I don't
count that. Yeah.
I don't consider her pulling Peacemaker on Doc in that one, because she had every intention for the bullet to split and hit the two widows.
Yeah, I thought it was more interesting with the gun when in this episode when Doc showed his vampire fangs that it lit up, considering his last episode he was able to hold the gun. And I don't know if it only like Revenant's only not being able to hold it, or can any demonic being not?
Well, the other guy didn't touch it. He had it. Oh, Kevin's got it.
Yeah.
Kevin's got it.
Casey picked it up with the stick. And in that episode, to see two demonic beings, one not even like go to touch it, and then Doc, like, obviously this is Peacemaker, I'm holding it in my hand. Like,
well, he gifted it to Wyatt, right? He gave it to him.
Right. And it goes back to the end of season 3 when Julian says that if you were truly evil or whatever he says, you wouldn't be able to hold Julian's sword, like the other sword. And aren't that sword and Peacemaker connected somehow? Like they're brothers or whatever?
Kin, maybe.
What's your thoughts, Kevin?
It's just it on the whole discussion about Peacemaker and its sentience, its decision making. You know, if Doc is sitting around talking to Casey, sure, pick me up, touch me, do whatever you need to do. But if the bearer, i.e. Wynonna, is emotionally upset at that, that's a different story. Then I'm going to light up, I'm going to follow direction, because it gave us the regular demon glow. This wasn't a white glow. This wasn't anything like friend or frenemy. This was a demon. If she pulls the trigger, I'm putting you down. So again, it's just that Peacemaker and why the colors and who can shoot it and all that. Because we even go way back. Say that again, Elsa?
Just the blue gun barrels just drives me fucking insane.
Waverly hasn't touched the gun this season, has she?
Waverly has not this season that we know of.
Yeah, I don't remember
it. Talking about the Doc and the Earp sisters, I do, I love that we saw Doc and Nicole hash things out. We haven't seen Waverly and Doc hash things out. Like, kind of the, hey, your girlfriend gave me up for you. No hard feelings. Or, I just sort of feel like that's still a super complex idea of of how Nicole got them back, and somehow it's like, you didn't give up Wynonna. Like, why didn't you give up Wynonna instead of me? Or what Waverly and Doc think it is. Now clearly Waverly doesn't think, I mean, she still is pushing Wynonna towards Doc, so she clearly has no hard feelings for him, nor should she. But I sort of wonder if he's still a little like, hey, can you come and clear the air with me?
I don't trust that pushing one bit.
Don't trust what?
The push.
As a sibling, if someone was pushing me towards someone who I was like, nah, I'm not really feeling that. If someone just kept nudging me or like hinting or insinuating that I should be pursuing something that I am not into, I would have a lot of questions for this person who is nudging me that direction. So because I'm not one of these two characters, questions for Waverly about what the fuck is happening. Like, quit pushing. Why are you pushing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's pushing,
a
I think,
thing
because
before?
it's the whole, she wants everybody to be as happy as her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is shady.
She's not happy.
Does she?
She's not happy. Thank you,
Area.
Jamie.
I feel like we're going to have to set up the video to have the boxes on one side for the Waverly is truly wanting that, and the ones for the ones who don't. Because it's clearly division is occurring here.
I think she's happy but needs therapy.
Oh,
She
yeah.
says we're. She says
you
we're
can't
so.
be in that place to be
Everybody
happy.
in
but still need
purgatory
therapy.
needs therapy.
Something is going to happen when someone becomes happy. I feel like is maybe they can't become happy. Maybe that's like the curse on purgatory. I don't know.
Is that
But
like
I
the
feel
whole
like-
angel, the
Like
angel
in
thing?
Buffy?
Like
My
angel?
Yeah,
True
some type
happiness?
some type of angel thing. Something.
My thing is like I said in the group chat, like Waverly is getting her happiness, but in doing so is almost going to lose her happiness, whereas Wynonna's lost her happiness, but in doing so will she gain her happiness? Like, this is like, I just feel like from the beginning of this season to the end of the season, you're gonna, like, you see the like happiness of Waverly is gonna, I think, go down based on some stuff that's probably gonna go down, and then I think Wynonna is gonna go from being in this down place to a happy place by the end of the season. And I just think it's an interesting thing to see these two sides playing. And again, they're always being played as polar opposites mostly in the show. So it would make sense that like when one's happy, one is not. But I don't know. I think that I think that something's going to definitely happen because, like you said, Rita, why is she pushing this happiness so much right now? And like, we're so close to being happy, like all these things, it's like, okay, something.
In 407, when she's talking with Doc at the glory hole, does she say I am happy, or does she say I'm so close to being happy? Because like in my mind, like what, like I think she said I'm happy in that episode, but now why is it backtracking to we're so close to being happy?
Well, in 402, she told Nicole, I've never been happier in my whole life, or I've never been this happy.
Yeah.
She said, well, I'm so, I've never been this happy. Why do I feel like bawling?
Oh, yeah. Well,
so like Waverly hit peak happiness in 402. And I'm like, this again, to Alyssa's point, we all come at it from very different point of views. I don't think Waverly can be truly happy unless Nicole is happy and unless Wynonna is happy. So that's why she wants other people to be happy, because she herself can't be happy unless these other people are happy. So it's not completely like, I just want this for you. She's like, no, I want you to be happy so I don't have to worry about you anymore and I can just love my happiness. Not that she's being selfish. I mean, she truly wants him to be happy, but I also think, particularly what we saw last episode, that there's a lot of repressed anger and memories in Waverly. Thus, she does need therapy.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean she's not happy, and that she doesn't generally want other people around her to be happy. That's my thinking.
Rita, you were looking at your book quite a bit.
Just trying to figure out if I wrote the quote down.
Okay.
I was gonna say, drop
I
some
hope
knowledge,
I
Rita.
did.
Yeah, waiting for her to drop a bomb on us.
Oh, I don't.
Ladybug.
I think though that the quote. I think she says that she just wants everyone to be happy.
Okay.
Because I think
Mm.
Doc was questioning her about about what happened at the Clantons, about killing Ma'am and all of that, and I think she like deflects and just says, "I just want everyone to be happy."
Okay.
I feel
Yeah.
like there's some secret goal there. I don't know what it is, but
Or
I
she's
think
just
Reflecting on
tired of,
lives.
just tired of purgatory. She's just like, just be happy.
Mhm.
I have a super
Dark
sister
theory?
adjacent maybe
Oh.
question. I don't know. Like my internet.
Oh no.
Oh, the
we're
suspense.
not gonna know what
You want
it is.
This again.
Such a drama queen, right?
thought that I just had, and correct me if I'm wrong, in 402, when she's on the throne, does she say, "I'm not even an Earp"? Does she say that?
No, but I think she says guardians aren't allowed to love.
Well, okay. What I was getting at is in this episode, like she calls herself an Earp, and we obviously know that Wynonna, like even though there's no Earp blood in Waverly, that she's still an Earp. But like to hear Waverly like say Earp sisters, that had my mind thinking back to 402. If she said, "I'm not even an Earp," I can't remember.
Won't even go there. We can't even. Oof. Not an herb.
Melissa,
I'm afraid to talk.
we can't wait for you to talk.
We'll see if it's worth it. No, something I've been mulling around is what if Peacemaker isn't connected to the Earps? What if it's connected to Doc?
Mm.
Mm.
Because both of the sisters have their own relationships to him and needing things or not needing things, but wanting things from him. And he's got the longest history with this particular thing, which now happens to be in the possession of someone who he cares deeply about, as it always has. It's just someone else now. So who's to say that Peacemaker isn't the guy who can't let go of his existence, and it's wreaking all this havoc on all of these people who we're like, oh, it's totally about them, but he's always there.
Hmm.
And
what
what
makes
if
me
Peacemaker
blue, the
dies
white-
and Doc dies?
Him.
Or vice versa, or vice versa. Like what if Wynonna not being able to let go of this gun is Doc not being able to let go of
Of
What?
Can't write this. Cannot write
No.
this.
She's doing this on purpose. What?
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 this is still working for me. I'm so sorry if I cut out.
You did.
Just about to
Tell
draw
me-
them.
Tell me when.
Okay. Go. Ish.
No.
No.
This is amazing.
I know.
What is
Oh.
Doc not willing to let go of?
I see. I don't know. It all looks the same to me. So if you
Yep.
can, if you can hear
We
me,
lost you when you were going to tell us about what Doc.
Can't let
Oh.
go of.
I think Doc can't let go of his existence
Mm.
and all of that connection to everyone in purgatory. All the people he happens to know are in purgatory.
Well,
The
it is
gun is
ironic
connected to
that
all
he
these
doesn't
people
know
that
what
Doc
Dead
knows.
Man's Hand was.
What, Rita?
I said it does lead to the irony of him not knowing or getting wrong the dead man's hand in poker, with him being such a savant. He says 2s and 7s, but it's aces and 8s.
Yeah, there's something still with his memory because ever since they went to the the
Museum.
yeah, the museum, he's been getting a few things wrong about his past. So, because that originally for me was why we weren't in the real timeline. Because I was like, well, Doc is remembering things different
Mhm.
of the like OK Corral and all of that. And so to have that second one, and I forgot to bring that up, of the poker hand, it was like, that's interesting. It doesn't seem like that's a small thing that the writers would put in there unless there's actually a meaning behind it. So,
And I was
is
gonna go look up.
Eve?
I was gonna go look up because I knew that in 108 or wherever they're having the bridal shower for Stephanie Jones, Doc deals her aces and eights. You know, he's dealing cards, and Doc deals Stephanie Jones aces and eights, and then she later dies. And I've always known, I was like, oh man, he dealt her the dead man's hand. And but I did a lot of research on the dead man hand, and now I'm trying to figure out if I think it's legend that isn't actually what he was holding. So Doc might be actually correct that they don't know what Wild Bill Hickok was actually holding when he was shot. It's just become legend that it was aces and eights.
Oh my god.
Nice.
Stupid show
I'm gonna have to go look it up and see what the history
that
is.
I love.
Now you have me like thinking a bunch about Peacemaker, because like I've had some like kind of Peacemaker theories, and this episode definitely like there were comments about Peacemaker. Like we know Peacemaker's old. We know that its power somehow comes from an angel side with like Julian and Juan Carlo. Like I don't know if they're the ones that put this power into the sword that then became Peacemaker. And then like you said Doc gave Wyatt Peacemaker, right?
I believe that's how it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like how then did Doc get this gun to give to Wyatt? And like in this episode, like the genie says, with a psychotic gun for a master, we're the same. And there were some other comments about
We need a murder board on just Peacemaker.
right. And like
a murder
Wynonna,
wall.
Murder wall.
right? What like when Wynonna says she still has this gun that she can kill Jeannie or Jenny, and then the genie says, or does it have you, honey? And like so this whole idea of, is Wynonna really in control, or is Peacemaker like, is it influencing her more than we know? Like, oh my gosh, there's
Who was in the
so
garden? Doc
I'd love to
and
see.
Waverly.
I'd love to see, and I don't think we'll ever get to, but I'd love to see the way that the other heirs have held Peacemaker and like their relationship with Peacemaker versus like Wynonna's, because I think obviously it would be interesting to know whether or not each heir like it reacts differently to, or if there's anything to do with that, or if it's just because like my theory all along was that Peacemaker, every time the heir is done and dies, they become the next to go in Peacemaker and help the heir after them continue on through Peacemaker. That's something that I always thought was interesting. It would be kind of cool, is if like every time the heir dies, they then go into Peacemaker to guide the next heir along.
and
But
because Ward was kind of, was not a very nice guy. Is that evil, whatever, like energy somehow swaying Wynonna.
Wynonna is also a woman, which Doc was pretty into. Kind of forever been into women, right? Yeah, all that stuff.
Actually,
That's what I'm thinking about.
I do say, if you kick back to season 1, Bobo did say this gun who's always had masters now has a mistress or something. Did call Wynonna, or did refer to Wynonna as the mistress of Peacemaker.
I want to see the writer's murder board. The many
Binder,
It's just
the Bible.
Earper hearts all over it.
right.
Earper hearts.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes I think, they'll go, you know what? This might not make a lot of sense, but the Earpers will make sense of it. So let's put
We'll
it
just
out
put
there.
it in there. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I know.
We will bring up all the ways that it will make sense that we didn't think about at the time. That it
Yeah.
makes sense.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Although more
always-
likely they're all just laughing at all of
Oh,
our theories
100%.
Oh yeah. I know.
Like
That's
Eve,
Not-
like they
not
probably all
even
have
close.
to think it's so funny.
What if
Like-
Eve's a MacGuffin this whole time?
Eve is
I
going
wanna
to come
know
back as
if we'll
Mr.
see-
Plumpkins.
I want to know if we'll see Eve's like true form. Does she have it? Does Eve have a true form, or will Eve always take on other people?
Who found
Or
Eve's
is Eve
form?
Peacemaker?
Yeah,
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't know.
Oh man.
Going back to Waverly, unless people are like there's anything to add to that, but I thought it was interesting, and again, it reminded me back to 402, like Waverly was under the influence of the genie spell and like being like consumed about like wanting to win, and when Doc's out of it and he's like, we need to go save Wynonna, she's in danger. Waverly's like, no, like she's your found family, like you chose her to Jeremy, you go do it. But then it took her hearing and then seeing Nicole to kind of pull her out of that trance, just like in 402 when Wynonna was trying to get her off the throne, but it took Wynonna bringing up Nicole's name to kind of pull her out of that trance. And how in this episode she couldn't go to Nicole yet, but she still was able to stop that like all-consuming like of wanting to be the like win for Nicole. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, it actually, I noticed that too when we watched it, that it took Nicole had the power to bring them out of this genie spell. The thought of Wynonna did not. To Waverly, she's like, whatever, Wynonna might die. Oh, but I hear Nicole kicking a chicken. Let me go watch that.
Yeah.
Kicking the chicken.
God bless.
Release the bloopers.
Well, I mean, Nicole's the one who got him all out of the garden anyway, so.
Technically, it was ma'am, I think.
Oh, true, but I mean, well, yeah.
And they did get the hint of what do the Clantons want with Doc. So there was a higher purpose.
The gun.
The gun.
The gun, maybe.
Man.
All right, so we have 3 episodes left in the season. Any final thoughts before we go on to the next episode, folks?
Well,
It'll
my
be
only-
light.
Go ahead. I was gonna say my only other thing is like Nedley's comment of like we've all made mistakes, and it usually happens when things you care about with things you care about the most. It's like we've seen time and time again, like Waverly or Wynonna, they've all made mistakes, and it's all like most or not all, like it's about the things that they care about so much. And so thinking about the next couple episodes, like all these mistakes that we might not have seen, like I think we're gonna like start seeing them, and they're gonna have some big repercussions.
Rainbows and sunshine. Rainbows and sunshine. If I believe it enough, nothing bad will happen.
This is purgatory, Kylie. I
Yeah.
hope you know that.
Fair.
I appreciate
Uh,
that you want that, though. It reminds me that that's possible.
Well,
Except in purgatory.
Maybe.
except I'm sure we're in for a lot of hurt,
Yeah.
Yep.
a lot of darkness.
Now, I think that we can all agree on.
Mhm.
We are going to have emotions about what's going to happen. But we're here for it. We're Earpers. This is what we do.
I love the show.
Yep. So next week we will all have drinks.
And
Have we-
will all bring
Have we
drinks
not
to
had
this.
them up to this point? Sorry.
I think maybe it's
not?
more of a we will need the drinks
Yeah,
rather
we
than
will
want
need
the
the
drinks.
drinks.
We shall see.
I think Rita is going to have her notebook, which will act as our therapy notebook. She will ask us how it made us feel.
Yes.
Very fair, very fair. Well, hopefully all of you watching enjoyed our travel. All I can think of is Alice in Wonderland. We're just going down rabbit holes, sequins and psychedelics and who knows what else. So that is our Earper journey, but we're having a blast doing it. And folks, please do keep the comments up, as Reader and others brought up wonderful thoughts shared in the comments. Certainly take a look at them if you haven't, because they bring new perspectives to us too. So keep them coming, keep the thoughts coming there. So I do appreciate everybody sitting down to talk tonight. It's been a blast as usual. We hope you folks enjoy it, and definitely, yep, you know, to quote Wynonna, buckle up, Buttercup. It's going to be something, I think, for these last three. So with that, we will say goodnight, and we appreciate everybody tuning in. Take care, all.
Bye.
Bye.